Hello, welcome to the bandsaw. It's right here. It's a bandsaw because if we open this up, come on, take a look. We've got a big band. The blade is like 97 inches long. It wraps around in this big loop. We turn it on and the wheel starts spinning. Blade is coming down. Put pressure on there. Come take a look at this right here. So this isn't adjusted correctly right here because this is talking about the blade width right here. So if we look at it this way, so it's not adjusted. This is about a 1/4 inch right here. And so what I need to do is tighten this so it is for the correct blade, come over here, width, right? So I'm tightening that up. That puts the correct amount of tension. It's pulling this top wheel up. It's on a spring, and it holds it in place. If we had a wider blade, we'd need to adjust that a little bit differently. You shouldn't have to do that, but just be aware of it. If the blade seems loose on there, maybe it got changed. So you don't really need to touch this one. Don't touch that one. Okay, that's for Mr. Deathy. Okay, other things on here. If we come around here, okay, so we've got, this is our blade guide right here, but this is our adjustment to be able to move this up and down. If we've got a thick board, depending on the board thickness, depending on the board thickness, this is about the right amount of blade exposed, right? But if I got something like this, or if I was going to cut something like that, I would need to adjust this. So I can start turning this and it gets locked right there, okay? Because right here, come look at it. We need to loosen this. This is clamping that into place. So I loosen it first and then I can adjust my blade height or my guide height so that I can get thicker pieces in there if I need to, okay? But if I was cutting this one, that's too much blade exposed. That's not very safe. So we want to adjust that down. And I say, about an inch above it, because if it's right here, I can't get my hands into that blade too easily. So let's drop it down in position. And then when it's there, we can lock it into position. So make sure before we make an adjustment here, we need to loosen this first, okay? But depending on the thickness of the board that you've got there. I'm going to go ahead and make a cut on here. We want to have a clear table when we do that. So I'll come on over here. We got a light so we can see our line a little bit better. And then our power switch right here is actually got 2 parts to it. We can pull that out and then I can push the green button. Because if that's in, it's not going to work. Okay, so I got to pop that in, pop that out, push the green button. So I'm making this cut correctly. And there we go. We're going to go ahead and leave our scraps there. We don't need to reach in with our hand. A lot of time I'll use my project to get those out of the way. I never want to reach my hand in there and try and get it. People, I did a cut on a curve, but people hold on too long and will put their hand in the blade. That's not good. The other way people get hurt is they were trying to clear out some scraps and then they caught their finger on there. The thumb is the main appendage that people hurt. They just end up pushing their thumb right into the blade. So don't do that. Our rule is always get our hand about 2 inches away from the blade. So we want to be outside here a little bit on either side. And we want to keep them on either side. I could cut like this. I could cut like that. I could come over to the other side and make a cut. Sometimes I pull the cut depending on what I'm doing. But we never want our hands going directly at the blade. As far as that safety test, as you see what we got. Keep your hands 2 inches away from the blade. The blade guide should be adjusted so it's about 2 inches above the wood. So this one's a little lower than 2 inches, but that's a good, no more than 2. We just don't want a lot of blade exposed there. The bandsaw, as you saw, can make curves, slight curves. We don't really want to make like a tight curve, like we go into a cut and then we turn the board really sharp. You need to be able to move forward as you're making that cut. And so that's a good size cut as far as the curve that we're putting on it. So don't get too sharp on those because then you'll just twist the blade and then bend it up and break it. If you need to back out of a cut, you should make sure and do so slowly. So let's just show you an example of that. Come on this side. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to go down on a cut right here. Okay. And if I need to, I can back out, go slowly. Okay. You saw that the blade was on those wheels, and there's nothing holding it on. We have, if you come in here, there's this white thing back there, and that's holding the blade forward. So like when I push on it, it doesn't fall off backwards. But there's nothing really holding it from falling off forward, right? If I pull out and I pull that blade forward, it can just jump off of those wheels that we saw, and then it's not on the wheels, and it's not going to work for us. And you'll hear a noise, and it'll be embarrassing. So you'll hear a bunch of scraping and stuff like that. So stay out of the work zone and make sure to never distract people. Should I turn very sharply when I'm in a cut? I'm right here. Should I turn super sharp? No, let's not do that. Wait until the blade is completely stopped before moving scraps. Yeah, or like I mentioned, you can use a piece of scrap wood to get those out of there. If your wood isn't cutting, should you push harder? No, you shouldn't. I have seen that, and I mentioned it in another video where people are pushing really hard. They get to the end of the cut, and then their hands jump forward. It's not very safe. We want to make sure that we're slow and controlled. It's going to be hard on the machine if we're pushing hard. The blade, come take a look at it. Right, the teeth height, that's the amount of sawdust it's going to be able to make in one cut. So it's not going to go very fast, right? So you just figure out what the saw can do and go at the correct pace. Don't push too fast or hard. Don't worry about using eye protection while using this machine. False. Always safety glasses on. Always cut right on your line so you don't have to waste time sanding. I always cut, if you can see, on the outside of my line. Okay, and then I'm going to hit this on the disc sander next and clean it up. So it leaves a pretty jagged edge, and we're going to have to sand and get it down to the correct size in a little bit later. And there's other tools that can do that to clean that. So yeah, I would hit the disc sander or belt sander next to clean this up to get that edge a little bit better. So why would I use this bandsaw instead of the chop saw, right? We've got our chop saw. That is very good at cutting straight lines. This is going to be better at cutting some curves. Sometimes also, I'm going to cut this little recess out and show you how to do that, but we're not going to cut all the way through. A chop saw is not going to be able to make that cut for us. So here's the technique. I would do some relief cuts and some angled cuts to be able to get this. So come on in and take a look at how I get after this. So I'm going to go down on the edge, back out slowly. I'm going to come down this one, back out slowly. What I like to do is come at an angle now and just cut this piece out. There we go. And now I can come to the other side. So I've got that little scrap piece. I can leave it or just get it out of the way with my project. Do not use your hand. Just go out of my way. And then I'm coming down at a different angle now. Get my hands out to the side. And then what you can do is kind of go right at the blade. And if you just take little cuts, we can actually just go side to side a little bit on this. Until I get it down to my line. Okay? So that's how we would cut a little pocket on there, a little notch. Next up, 3 things that should be checked before making a cut. I'm going to read them, make sure I get them right. So we want to make sure that our blade guide is at the correct height, number 1. The blade tension is correct. We took a look at that earlier, and that's based on how thick that blade is that way. And if we see in there, it is correct for 1/4 inch. And then my work area is clean. Okay, so we don't want any scraps that we're going to have to try and work around as we're using this thing. Last one, 2 things that could cause the blade to break. One being, I got into a cut and then I turned it really sharply, or excessive force, just pushing too hard on it. Sometimes they just break too. They've been used a lot and they're worn out, and we'll just need to get a new one on there. No big deal. Other than that, I think we got it all. See ya.